Today, I'm going to talk about what is permaculture design. I talk about it often in my videos because it's really, I would even call it a value system, but it's really a method, a tool on how to design your landscape, your garden, your farm. It's really about values and putting people first, the earth first, and fair share, right? Those are the top three values in permaculture design and the things that we try to keep top of mind as I'm designing. What I like about it the most is it really is empowering the systems that are already there, nature's systems, to really take over and blossom and do well. And it's kind of a rehab for nature, I guess you could say. And when you start working together with nature, all sorts of good things happen, right? It reduces the amount of time that you've got to put in. It reduces the amount of water that you've got to put in. It improves the crop that you get out. It improves the quality that you get out. So there's all sorts of benefits that start stacking, not just for you and your family and your neighborhood, if you choose to share that, but also for the earth. It helps the earth. It starts helping all of the plants and animals and insects and everything else. So there's this like win that starts building as you put the practices in place. But with the design, we start looking at all the elements, all the factors, and all of these potential benefits that we want in there. And we look at what the people want and need and their lifestyle and what they'll be able to actually. So it's basically customizable to each person's needs and resources and all of those things, but it maximizes the potential. So for example, my backyard is only about 450 square feet, but I will be able to maximize every square inch. Like I've talked about in my videos, I'm gonna not just I'll do one citrus tree, but it'll have like 3 different kinds of citrus on it. I have some beds. I do have raised beds, but those raised beds are for my annuals, and that's actually probably the minimal space, I guess you could say, taking up. The majority of what I'm growing are perennials, which means I'm not going to have to plant them year after year after year. So every year, my garden will become less and less maintenance because it's really just pruning, maintaining, and just going from season to season, making sure those plants are doing well. As opposed to the parts of my garden that are annuals that will need me to go in once a season and then be checking on them regularly and making sure that they're getting water and making sure that they're staying healthy, getting any extra nutrients that they need. So I say that, but then even the way that I set up, that raised garden beds are set up, even then you're not tilling. You're building up all a healthier soil profile. And so even that part of the gardening becomes easier and better, and everything is more nutritious, more abundant. So permaculture design, yes, it's a tool, but it does so much for each individual, and it can do much for a neighborhood if they wanted to choose to participate together, or even if just the person that has that design and is working through it and putting it to use as they're getting more and more abundance. Like if my trees are producing a ton of citrus fruit, what am I going to do with all that? I can't eat it all. So I would take it and give it to whoever needs it, right? And as you start to feel that abundance and you start to realize the lack fades away, that's when you know you've got that overflow that you can start giving food away. And I think that's what our world needs more of, right? We need more of being able to share what we have an abundance of. So that's why I get so excited about permaculture. I really feel like it solves a lot of problems. It can combat climate change, it can combat poverty and food scarcity and all sorts of things. So as you can tell, I get excited talking about it, but let me go on. So now let me move on to the food security piece. I kind of just touched on it, but one of the things that starts happening is as you're producing more and more yourself, your food costs go down. Now, currently, I think the statistic is only 22% of people in the world have all the food needs that they have. Only about 22% of the world can satisfy their food needs from places that are within 50 miles of where they live. In other words, we're dependent on gathering our food from probably hundreds of miles, if not thousands of miles. Recently, I believe the president made agreements with other countries so that we could import beef, which is mind-blowing to me that the beef supply in our country is that scarce or expensive or whatever it is, but we need to import it from so far away. That to me is just ridiculous. So I think that people need to take back control from government or waiting for somebody to rescue them, right? We need to start taking care of ourselves and of each other, and then we won't have these problems. But there's definitely some roadblocks in the way, and I'll talk about those and how permaculture design can really help overcome those. So the other thing that I've mentioned is that the food that comes out is healthier. There's more of it. So you have a more reliable supply. You don't have to worry about supply chain issues like we did with COVID, right? When all of a sudden everything was starting to run out, and like just all sorts of things that can happen. There could be a crazy storm that goes through and wipes out these harvests, or there's drought in another place that maybe that's where they grow all of the legumes. And so, yes, that could happen to you in your food garden, but if you have more people doing this, these systems are able to rebound and recover and even sustain that kind of damage better. And the knowledge stays with you to be able to rebuild faster anyways. I just see it as such a better technology to have in place than what we have currently right now. Our food supply system is so frail. I really, really would love to see so many more people taking this on, even if it's not everybody. Next, I want to talk about the eco-beneficial part of permaculture design. Eco-friendly seems so superficial. It doesn't really, it's just like, I'm being kind of nice to the environment, like I'm not polluting as much, or I'm not whatever. But eco-beneficial is because the permaculture design takes into account the waste that we're producing, reducing that waste, or using that waste for something in some other part of the design that actually uses it. So there's more of an integrated life. It's not just here's your garden and your food. It's okay, how do we take care of your water supply and the waste that you're producing, and reducing the chemical usage, and making sure that you've got, a wood supply or whatever you need, that your needs are met. And yes, it is some shifts in your lifestyle, but again, the design is to meet you and meet you where you're at. Now, your design for your specific life could shift and change over the years. Maybe you start down this road of making changes and then realize, hey, I don't really need, to go out and buy groceries all the time, so I don't have these plastic bags building up all the time. So now I have to do something else for my cat litter or my dog poop or whatever, right? So what do? You make some shifts and you make different choices, and it constantly changes. Like, yes, that initial design gets you going in the right direction, But then that's like your leaping off point. You can make changes from there. You can scale up or back. It's all up to you. So I love the flexibility and the expandability of a permaculture design. Why aren't more people doing this? Why aren't more people even just growing food in their gardens? What happened? And there seems to be this disconnect between understanding or seeing the benefits of growing your own food, having even just a little garden, right? So many people have gotten away from it. Now, the study that I read about said that 45% of people in the US, and I think it was something like a third of the people in Britain, actually they have some form of a garden, it's great. I mean, that's nearly half in the US. But that doesn't mean that they're actually growing enough to be able to sustain themselves, or that they have like a reliable resource, right? Maybe it's something that, they like to grow their tomatoes, they like to grow their salsa, whatever. And there's that piece. So it's more of I won't say convenience, but more of a hobby. And there isn't that seriousness about it that really takes that life-altering shift where you're thinking more about your whole life cycle and the impact that it has on everything else. So it's a little bit different. Permaculture design really takes into account your kind of a broader spectrum of your life. So why did that study say that people were growing so little food? Well, the three top things that came out were it was time constraints, it was lack of knowledge, and it was space constraints. Well, everything we just talked about met all three of those, right? Well, maybe not lack of knowledge, but one of the key principles in permaculture design is that you would start small. You don't want to jump into something that's completely new and different. You plant one willow tree maybe instead of 10 and then grow from there. Or start with one area of your yard and then spread outward. The flexibility of permaculture design is what I love the most about it. The values and everything, of course, those are my values as well. I want to see everybody be able to have an abundant food supply. So if that's something that you are interested or that makes sense to you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. I'd love for you to reach out if you're interested in knowing more or how we could do this for you. Either way, happy growing. Have a great day.